Syria condemns Morsi's statements as a flagrant interference in Syria's affairs. Our army forces clean Saif Aldawlah from terrorists and kill scores of them in Aleppo and its suburbs. President Putin warns that certain sides are extremists to serve their own interests in Syria. Good afternoon. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. The Foreign and Expatriates Ministry has condemned Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi's statements during the Arab Foreign Ministers meeting in Cairo as a flagrant interference in Syrian affairs and an open encroachment on the Syrian people's right in choosing their own future without foreign intervention. The ministry said Morsi has reflected the views of a group that is detached from the mutual history of the Syrian and Egyptian peoples. The ministry described Morsi's statements as part of the media instigation campaign that aims at igniting ongoing violence in Syria, adding that in this way his government is not different from the other governments that support armed terrorist groups and are therefore partners in shedding Syrian blood. The ministry said history will not forgive those sides for what they have done to the Syrian people. It stressed confidence in the Egyptian people's ability to regain Egypt's role on the Arab arena in a manner that restores the currently missing balance in joint Arab action. In reply to calls by local residents, competent authorities chased armed terrorist groups in Idlib suburbs. Army units attacked the terrorist hideouts in Harem city along the highways, which were used by terrorists to attack civilians, killing and wounding a number of them. Meanwhile, authorities chased terrorist Abdelaziz al-Jamal, who opened fire at a military point at Hayy al-Dbayt, killing him immediately. The authorities have intercepted a terrorist attempt to attack law enforcement troops in Al-Nizariya village in Homs suburbs, killing 3 terrorists and wounding 4 others. An army unit destroyed at dawn today a terrorist hideout behind Al-Khandaq Street in Babhoud in Homs. The clashes resulted in killing a large number of terrorists. The authorities also intercepted armed terrorist groups who attacked at dawn today a law enforcement troops point at the entrance of Al-Husn town, scoring direct hits among the terrorists. Five terrorists were killed and 5 others were captured today when army units stormed a terrorist hideout on Aleppo Ancient Road in Hama, following information received from the inhabitants. An army barricade in Al-Sheikh Said neighborhood in Aleppo has been assaulted by a booby-trapped car. After the blast, the barricade was attacked from 3 directions. Our army units bravely repelled the attack, killing scores of mercenary terrorists and destroying and crushing their equipment. No casualties have been reported among the army personnel. Meanwhile, rehabilitation works started in Mizar Street, Al-Molat neighborhood, Talayt Nahas and Al-Hariri Hospital in Saif Aldawlah district after cleaning them of armed terrorist groups. The armed forces also cleared Al-Sayyid Ali neighborhood and Suq al-Hal in Aleppo from terrorists and restored their hideouts. In Sulayman al-Halabi neighborhood, the armed forces carried out a qualitative operation against terrorist hideouts near Al-Hajar Mosque and killed several terrorists and injured others. Our armed forces also killed a number of terrorists who tried to attack Al-Midan police center in the city. President Vladimir Putin of Russia has warned against the attempt of certain sides to use extremists in order to realize their own interests in Syria, affirming that this would be a very dangerous policy, short-sighted and with grave repercussions. He called on all Western countries to reassess their stand concerning the crisis in Syria. In an interview with Russia Today channel, President Putin called for a halt of violence by all sides and for national dialogue to outline a future that guarantees security to all the sides taking part in the internal political process. On Russia's stand towards Syria, Putin said, Russia had proposed a meeting on Syria in Geneva, which was attended by all sides, during which a roadmap was drawn for work that would bring about stability and calm to Syria and enable the country to move to a phase of development and construction, and all the participants had approved the decisions taken. He pointed out that the armed opposition has refused the Geneva decisions, and some Western countries who took part in the meeting turned their back on the Geneva statement. A committee has been reformed to file lawsuits against anyone who has perpetrated a crime against state establishments, ministries and administrations, committed massacres against the Syrian people, instigated or taken part in instigation violence, including the misleading media channels, and against anyone who proves to be indicted in such acts. The committee is to start work immediately. The dates of its meetings for accomplishing its work are to be seen as soon as possible under the supervision of the head of the Bar Association in the Syrian Arab Republic, Mr. Nizar Saif. The Ministry of Information has said that Nilesat operator has stopped broadcasting the Syrian satellite channels in a unilateral procedure, violating the terms of the contract signed with the company and the Media Code of Ethics. The ministry stressed that the procedure contradicts the principles of journalism in an unacceptable and blatant way and comes with the framework of the campaign targeting Syria, adding that this behavior serves the Zionist scheme. The ministry called upon Nilesat satellite company to refrain from its behavior and adhere to the legal regulations in this regard. The ministry condemned this behavior, which violates the simplest rules of the Arab States Broadcasting Union law and Syria's rights, which should be preserved according to these rules. In related news, Union of Syrian Journalists denounced the Nilesat administration's decision to suspend the broadcast of Syrian satellite channels as media piracy against national media and the freedom of the word. The union said in a statement that this step came in implementation of the decision of the Council of the Arab Foreign Ministers, which called upon the Nilesat and Arabsat administrations to stop broadcasting the Syrian satellite channels, which is unexpected since these organizations signed contracts and had legal obligations regarding the Syrian channels. The statement added that the union addressed all Arab journalist unions and the International Federation of Journalists to condemn this move and to call upon the administration of Nilesat to refrain from their decision in accordance with the minimum level of moral principles and international conventions, particularly the UN Charter and the freedom of opinion and expression. The National Media Council stressed that the Nilesat and Arabsat decision to suspend the broadcast of the Syrian satellite channels is illegal and condemned it as part of the war against Syria. The Council considered these procedures as completion of criminal acts that targeted the Syrian media institutions and the journalists, stressing that such terrorist acts aimed at silencing the voice of the Syrian media, which presented to the local and international public opinion the reality of what is taking place on the ground, exposing the campaign of lies and fabrications led by Arab and Western media. The Council added that it reserved its right to take necessary legal procedures to prosecute the two companies and all media outlets that violate rules of the journalist work. It added that all attempts targeting the Syrian media will fail as it belongs to the Syrian people and convey the reality, stressing that the national media will preserve its professionalism to expose the fabrications of other media. In occupied Palestine, 3 citizens were killed and 3 others injured following Israeli air shelling last night of Palestinian houses, raising the death toll to 6 in the last 24 hours. Palestinian sources pointed out that Israeli artillery shell at Palestinian citizens near the Faculty of Agriculture east of Beit Hanun. Israeli troops also targeted ambulances and medics, preventing them from carrying the wounded to hospitals in Al-Maghazi camp in the Strip. With this, we end our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, and in order to view our bulletin again, you can visit our website in English, SyriaOnline.sy. Up next, the latest business and market news with Khalid after the break.